The defendant, with premeditation, beat and strangled Christine Melton in her home. Before stealing her vehicle, she got into the car to provide directions, but the defendant strangled her when she tried to exit. He then drove to an empty lot, strangling her into unconsciousness at least one additional time on the way there.
Before he became known as the Deadpool Killer, Wade Wilson was just another troubled kid who everyone hoped would grow out of it. But he didn't. He only got worse. This case is reckless, disturbing, and brutal even. But to understand the murders, we need to understand the boy who grew into the monster that we all know today. Wade Stephen Wilson was born on May 20th, 1994 to teenage parents. His father was just 14 and his mother was 13. His biological parents named him Anthony at first, but later he was adopted by Steve and Candace Wilson. His new parents named him Wade Stephen Wilson, and he was raised in Tallahassee, Florida. He attended Chiles High School, and people over there often said that from a very young age he was known to be deeply troubled. He had anger issues and he was often seen unstable. As a child and teenager, Wade suffered several head injuries, 4 concussions in total, which he later claimed contributed to his violent and emotional behavior. His criminal record began in 2012 when he was just and still a teenager. In Leon County, he was involved in multiple incidents, including burglary, firearm-related offenses, and assault. In November 2013, he was sentenced to prison, and he came out later in September 2014. Just a year later, in 2015, he faced serious allegations of kidnapping and sexual battery after a woman claimed that he had assaulted her in a vehicle after a party, but the jury found him not guilty. In 2017, Wade was arrested again, this time for stealing firearms. He served another year in prison until he came out in July 2018. Wade later claimed that after his release, he received $20,000 as part of that arrangement, though no solid evidence ever proved that. In early 2019, his violent tendencies escalated again. His ex-girlfriend accused him of assaulting and strangling her, and although she alleged rape and kidnapping, the investigation didn't move further on because there was not much evidence.
Just listen to some of the horrible things she says he did.
Tied me up in the back of my own car and tied my mouth shut and my arms and legs and beat the crap out of me.
Just a few months later, on July 1st, 2019, Wade Wilson was arrested again, this time for battery. By this time, he was a 25-year-old man with a long trail of violence, drugs, and broken lives behind him. But he was released in the same month, and within the next 3 months, the same pattern would end up in murder. It started like an ordinary Sunday night, but before the next morning, 2 women would be dead, and Wade Wilson would earn the name the Deadpool Killer. That night, Wade met a 35-year-old woman named Christine Melton at a local bar. The two spent the night drinking together before she decided to take him back to her home. Sometime during the early hours of October 7th, Wade strangled Christine to death in her own bed. There was no clear motive, no argument, no robbery, nothing. It was just pure and senseless violence.
In this case, the totality of the circumstances indicates the defendant, with premeditation, beat and strangled Christine Melton in her home before stealing her vehicle.
A few hours later, he was now driving in a stolen car. He came across another woman, 43-year-old Diane Royce. Somehow, he convinced her to get into his car, and moments later, he strangled her. Then he ran the car over her body multiple times, killing her instantly.
He fled the scene and drove back to Cape Coral, where he decided that he would murder another person. He saw Diane Ruiz walking to work and pulled over, pretending to ask for directions. She got into the car to provide directions, but the defendant strangled her when she tried to exit. He then drove to an empty lot, strangling her into unconsciousness at least one additional time on the way there. When she tried to flee from the car, he drove over her at least one time, inflicting mortal injuries to her spine, ribs, and neck. The evidence showed that both murders were heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that the second murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated.
Both murders happened within the span of a few hours. There was no connection between the two women and Wade. They were just innocent women minding their own business until they accidentally crossed paths with the wrong man. After the murders of Christine and Diane, Wade Wilson went to his biological parents, Stephen Teston and Jennifer Miller, and he confessed to what he had done. According to the police report and later court testimony, Wade had told his father exactly what he had done, how he had killed the women. He reportedly said something along the lines of, "I killed 2 women and I'd do it all again." And of course, it caused both his parents to be deeply horrified. Thankfully, his father called the law enforcement and he reported to them what Wade had just said. The phone call led police to begin checking the recent missing person reports, and within hours, they found Christine's body inside her house. And the next day they found Diane's remains, which means that the confession to his parents was the key moment that triggered the investigation, and that was when Wade Wilson was arrested. At the time of his arrest, police recovered several crucial pieces of evidence, including the stolen car that belonged to one of the victims, blood traces, and surveillance footage which showed him in the crime scene. Witnesses also reported seeing Wade Wilson in the area around the time of the murders, which further tightened the case against him. The trial of Wade Wilson began in early 2023, and the proceedings drew significant media attention to him due to the brutality of the murders and his eerie resemblance to a famous fictional character, Deadpool. During the trial, prosecutors portrayed Wade Wilson as a remorseless and violent individual who preyed on women without any conscience or motive. They presented evidence like DNA results, phone records, surveillance footage, and testimonies from friends and neighbors which directly linked him to the murder of the 2 women. Prosecutors emphasized the brutality of his actions, calling him deliberate, senseless, and sadistic. The defense, however, argued that Wilson's behavior was stemmed from long-term brain damage and heavy drug use. They pointed to his history of multiple concussions, claiming that these injuries impaired his ability to control impulses. A neurologist testified that brain scans revealed frontal lobe trauma, while mental health experts described Wilson as deeply disturbed and chemically dependent. Wade Wilson's behavior was mostly blank and detached, though sometimes he did appear restless, often glancing at the jury or staring into space, but he rarely showed emotion. After several days of testimony and closing arguments, the jury finally found Wade guilty on all counts, which paved way for the penalty phase. During this stage, prosecution revisited the brutality of the murders, arguing that his crime was heinous. It was like cruel. They showed graphic evidence once again, emphasizing on how both the women, both victims, Christine and Diane, had suffered before their deaths.
What injuries did you note, if any, on the external examination of Miss Diana Ruiz?
Sure. Most notably, so she was in the stages of putrefactive decomposition, so her tissues were being decomposed and degrading. She had some evidence of animal or scavenging activity on her body as well. And so portions of her ears and nose were removed already, most likely by avian scavengers. But I could see externally, first and foremost, that she had fracturing of the nasal bone. She also had a laceration underneath her left breast. She also had bruising or hemorrhaging in the skin on both sides of the left and right sides of the body.
Was that the extent of the external injuries that you observed?
The most significant external. There was, of course, a lot of significant internal injuries.
And did you document all of these by way of
photograph? I apologize. She also had, what I didn't talk about was bruising on the back of her left forearm, bruising on the back of her left hand. I can also see that she had a fracture of the fourth finger, the proximal part of the fourth finger, and she also had some bruising on her right arm as well.
The defense countered by presenting mental health experts and family members pleading for lenience. They highlighted his concussions, his troubled childhood, his drug addiction, arguing that he was not an evil mind, he was just a damaged one. His adoptive mother, Candace Wilson, wept as he asked the jury to see the child, not just a monster. One of the most powerful moments came when Wade Wilson's biological father, Stephen, testified for the prosecution himself. He described the chilling phone call when Wade Wilson had confessed to killing Diane Ruiz, and when he was asked why, he simply said, "I just wanted to do it."
That call that evening.
The final call?
Nope, the call before the final call.
He just told me, he did something. There was 2 people gone that would not be back. He said, "I'm a killer." I just told him to call me back. I just thought it was another story.
So at this point, when he says that there were 2 people that wouldn't be with us and that he was a killer, did you put a lot of weight into that?
No, ma'am.
Did you think he was just telling you a story?
He's a good storyteller. Yeah.
So let's start with the first girl. If you could tell the jurors, what did he tell you?
He just said he met a girl at a bar. They went back to her house, hung out for a little bit, and then she fell asleep.
What did he say happened after she fell asleep?
He said he got on top of her and choked her.
What name did he call her? Did he refer to her in a derogatory term?
He said, I choked that bitch.
And what did he say he did after he choked her?
He said he stayed in the house for a little while, and then he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her.
Did he say why he was unable to put her in her trunk?
He said that he felt like rigor mortis had started to set in.
And does rigor mortis make your body stiff? You didn't know?
I think so.
So he just told you that that was the reason that he couldn't lift her and get her into her trunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he said her trunk, it was the trunk of her car he was going to put her in?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he say about the second girl?
He said he saw her walking down the street and stopped and asked her for directions. And she got in the car with him.
What did he say happened once she got in the car with him?
He said he reached over and choked her.
And did he tell you that he choked her while he was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what did he say happened after he choked her?
He said he was looking for a place to put her body.
Did he find a place where he eventually dumped her body?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he tell you about the situation when he got to the place where he was going to dump her body?
He said that he pulled her out of the car and realized that she was still breathing.
So what did he tell you he did when he realized she's still breathing?
He said he got back in the car and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti.
As he's telling you all these things, what's his demeanor as he's telling you?
He was excited.
When you say excited, what do you mean by that?
I felt like he was wanting me to feel the way he felt about it.
Did he seem proud of it?
Yes.
Did he seem to show any kind of remorse?
No, ma'am.
And was he able to go into great detail about both of these ladies' deaths?
Yes, ma'am.
After deliberation, 9 jurors voted for death penalty in the case of Christine's murder, and 10 jurors voted for death penalty in the case of Diane's murder. The judge agreed to the jury's recommendation and imposed 2 death sentences.
The totality of the circumstances warrants that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced to death for each count of first-degree murder. Accordingly, it is ordered in the judge that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced as follows. Count 1, first-degree murder of Christine Melton. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 2, grand theft of a motor vehicle. The defendant is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 3, battery. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in the Lee County Jail. Count 4, first-degree murder of Diane Ruiz. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 5, the burglary of a dwelling. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 15 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 6, petty theft. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in Lee County Jail.
The sentencing drew public attention and controversy, with some people sympathizing with Wade due to his mental health and appearance, while the others supported the idea of his death. They believed that it was justice for the victim. The moment the sentence was announced, the families of the two victims responded with heartbreak, relief, and resolve. Christine's family believed that she died due to the kindness and trust that she clearly had in her heart, which is somehow true. For Diane's family, the grief was equally deep. Wade Wilson, on the other hand, began to draw attention because of a disturbing behavior behind bars. During his time in jail, he tattooed multiple symbols on his face, including a swastika right under his right eye, which drew public and media's attention. In 2020, Wilson and his cellmate were accused of tampering with a window, which was later described as an attempted escape plan. Investigators claimed that Wade Wilson was the main planner and that he had allegedly arranged a getaway car right outside the facility.
Tonight, Wilson, along with his cellmate Joseph Katz, are in even more trouble. Reports say they tried to smash through a window and break out of jail.
In 2023, Wade Wilson faced new charges for smuggling drugs into prison. He pleaded no contest in exchange for having the escape-related charges dropped. As a result, he received 12 additional years, which were concurrently going to be served with his death sentences. As of August 31, 2025, he is being held at the Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida, where he remains on death row. During incarceration, Wade Wilson reportedly displayed violent behavior, but he also seemed calm at times, with some psychologists described as manipulative. Like, they described that it was manipulative control. It was manipulation. He was conscious of maintaining a certain image in front of the inmates and the staff. Despite this, he still remained a high-risk inmate, and the correctional officers were advised of keeping distance, but also monitoring his interaction. Media coverage of Wade Wilson's incarceration also highlighted how he had been deceptive in court, trying to act remorseful, but psychologists described that he was unrepentant. This duality further fueled public's fascination and horror, which gave him the infamous nickname, the Deadpool Killer. The story of Wade Wilson, the Deadpool Killer, is a reminder of how easily trust can be manipulated and the darkness that can hide behind a familiar face. This case is a reminder that safety can be easily broken, and what hell the victims' families had gone through. Even though he's now in jail, what he did will keep affecting the families of the people that he had hurt. This case is a reminder of how easily safety can be broken and how strong the victims' families are for going through this, and how justice should be served.